You know, we've all been there. You spend hours, maybe even days, cramming for a test, only to forget almost all of it a week later. It's maddening. But what if I told you there's one method scientifically proven to be way more effective than just studying? Well, that's what we're going to get into. Seriously, why does this happen? It's probably the most frustrating part of learning anything new. You put in all that time, you read the chapters over and over, and you really feel like you've got it down, but then poof, when you actually need the information, it's just not there. So what is going on inside our brains? Okay, so today we are going to cut through all the noise, all the different study hacks you see online. We're going straight to the cognitive science to pit the top learning strategies against each other and find out, once and for all, which one comes out on top.
Right. So in the science of learning, it really all boils down to three main players. You can think of them as the heavyweight champions in the ring. And while they can all work together, today we're focusing on a classic head-to-head match between our most common habit and a surprisingly powerful challenger.
So first up, you've got deliberate practice. This is that really focused, high-effort work designed to get you better at something specific. Then there's spaced repetition, which is really just the smart idea of not cramming everything into one night. We'll actually come back to that one later. And finally, our main event challenger, retrieval practice. All this really means is testing yourself, actively trying to pull information out of your brain without looking at the answer.
All right, let's get to it. The main event. There was this landmark study back in 2006 that put our most common study habit, just rereading stuff, up against retrieval practice. And trust me, the results were absolutely staggering. The experiment was actually super simple. They had one group of students study a piece of text 4 times in a row, just reading and rereading. The second group, they only got to study the passage once, but then they were tested on it 3 times, trying to write down everything they could remember.
Okay, so check this out. 1 week later, they tested both groups. The rereaders, they only remembered about 40% of the material, but the group that practiced retrieval, they recalled over 60%. That is a 52% relative increase in what they remembered. And they did it by changing how they learned, not how much time they spent. The lead scientist who analyzed this data said it perfectly. He said retrieval immunized the brain against forgetting. It's not just about remembering more stuff. It's about actively fighting the process of forgetting. It's like a vaccine for your memories. And look, if you think that initial result was a big deal, just wait. The truly mind-blowing part of this study is when you look at how much each group forgot during that week. This is where it just becomes a total knockout. Think about this for a second. The group that just kept rereading the material lost over half, 52% of what they learned, in just 7 days. All that effort they put in just vanished into thin air. Now compare that to the retrieval group. They lost only 14% of their knowledge in that same week. That's a tiny fraction. It shows they didn't just remember more at first. They built memories that were way, way more durable. The winner of this fight isn't just clear, it's a total landslide for retrieval practice. So the big question is, why? Why is testing yourself so much more powerful than just reading something over again? Well, the answer isn't just about good habits. It's about the actual hardwiring and chemistry of your brain. And it all comes down to one simple word: effort. Okay, so there's this concept called a prediction error signal. See, your brain is basically a prediction machine. When you just reread something, you're not predicting anything. You're just passively taking information in. But when you force yourself to recall an answer, when you test yourself, you're making a prediction. And if you get it wrong, or even if you just feel a little shaky, your brain flags that as an error. And that signal is what screams, "Hey, pay attention, we need to fix this." That's the trigger for real learning. And there's more. That feeling of strain, that little bit of agitation you feel when you're struggling to remember something, that's not a bad thing. That's the magic happening. That feeling triggers the release of chemicals like epinephrine for focus, and this is the crucial part, acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is like a little highlighter pen for your brain. It goes in and marks the exact neural connections that need to be made stronger for next time. So here's the bottom line. Learning isn't supposed to feel easy. That feeling of fluency you get from rereading is mostly just an illusion. When you choose that easy path, you are literally preventing your brain from releasing the chemicals it needs to build strong, lasting memories. That effort, that struggle, isn't a sign that you're failing. It's the sign that learning is actually happening. Okay, so we know retrieval is the undisputed champion. That's great. But how do we actually turn this science into a practical strategy we can use every day to get the absolute best results possible?
This is where we create what I like to call the super protocol. We're going to take the most effective mechanism. That's our winner, retrieval practice, and we're going to combine it with the most effective schedule. And that's our old friend, spaced repetition. When you put these two together, you get maximum results.
Here it is, a simple three-step protocol. Step 1 is the trigger. Right after you learn something new, test yourself. Force that initial recall. Step 2 is the amplifier. This is a cool one. While you're testing yourself, take short 10-second pauses. Research shows that in these little quiet moments, your brain is rapidly replaying and strengthening those new connections. And finally, step 3, the schedule. Don't just cram your self-testing, you've got to space it out. Test yourself right away, then do it again about 2 days later, and then again a week after that. This expanding schedule is the absolute key to building memories that stick for the long haul. So there you have it. The science is crystal clear. Real lasting learning isn't supposed to be easy. It requires that active, effortful strain of pulling things from your memory. We know the path. The only question left is, are you ready to stop just studying and start choosing what actually works?